Hi everyone, I am Nagateja, Assistant Professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department in St. Martin's Engineering College. Today I will explain about software methodologies, different kinds of software methodologies we will treat. First one, waterfall model, the second one is agile model. These two models I will try to explain. So these are the different software development approaches that we see in software industry. The first one we will see waterfall model. In waterfall model, these are the steps involved. The first step is feasibility study. For example, a person wants to develop a business application and he does not have any programming knowledge. So if he does not have any programming knowledge, he will approach a company and he will give the idea to the company saying that I want to develop this business application, but I don't have any programming knowledge. So the software company who has a set of skilled software developers, they will try to help him. So first they will listen to the idea of the consumer, the client who has this business application idea, and then he will try to finally tell the feasibility study. So what are the things that are required in that? Okay, in the feasibility study, what are the things required by the consumer, that client? He will tell clearly what is required, and based on that, the persons in the software development company, that is the software developers, they will decide whether they can do the project or not. Okay, so first here we will see the feasibility study step. In the feasibility study step, the client will tell the requirements. So the requirements are clearly specified by the client. The requirements of the client will be checked by the software development company, and they will tell whether they can do the project or not. So that's why the name feasibility study. So practically, can we do it or not? That way they will verify. Okay, so the requirements will be specified here. Okay, so the requirements will be specified here, and the project team will listen to that and they will confirm it. Once they confirm the project, whether they can do the project or not, then they will go for the next step. Before that they cannot, because sometimes the idea will be not practically feasible. So when it is not practically feasible, it becomes very difficult for the company, so they will not come in agreement with the client. So here the company will have an agreement with the client based on the requirements. So this is called as feasibility study. So practically, can we do it or not, is verified in this step. Next comes the second step, which is nothing but requirement specifications. In requirement specifications, here the team will decide what are the tools required to develop the project. For example, if that particular client wants to develop a website or any software application, business application, the client does not have any programming knowledge, so he gave the idea to these developers. Now these developers will tell what are the tools required to develop this project. So here the tools required are specified. Once the tools are specified, then what is the cost of the project, how the project must be done, all these steps will be written in a document which is called as software requirement specification document, SRS. So in this software requirement specification document, all the things that are important for the project, to develop the project, those will be specified in SRS document. Okay, so here all the tools are specified, and what is the cost of the project and how the project must be done, all those things will be discussed in this document. Next goes with the next step, which is design part. In this design part, after the software requirement specifications are clearly specified, the cost of the project is also clearly specified, then they will go for the design step. In the design step, what we call as SDD, system design description, is given. So system design description has all the things, all the architecture that is important to develop the project. So whatever the architecture that we are dealing with, like let us say for example, we are dealing with a gaming application. We want to develop a gaming application. So for that, what are the softwares required and how to develop the code, that is also shown in this SDD, software design description. So it will be in the form of flowcharts and algorithms to develop the code. So algorithms and flowcharts are shown in this particular part. Okay, so algorithms are nothing but a set of instructions to develop the code. Okay, so that is algorithm. Algorithms are specified, and next after that, flowcharts. Flowchart is nothing but a graphical representation of algorithm, pictorial representation of algorithm in the form of symbols we will represent, so that the programmers who just look at the flowchart, they will have an idea of what to do next. Because once you look at the algorithm and flowchart, you will get a clarity of how to write the code. So that is the next step. So what is the next step? Coding and module testing. So here the programmers will write the code based on the flowcharts and algorithms that were given in SDD, software design description. So here flowcharts and algorithms are studied by the programmers and they will write the code further. But before that, this project is now divided into modules. Okay, this entire project is divided into parts. These parts are called as modules. So modules, when they are dividing the project into modules, each module has a set of programmers who work on only their module. For example, I am developing a website application, okay, website or gaming application. Now this entire project cannot be done by a single programmer. It will be very difficult if it is a very big game. Okay, so here the game is divided into parts. So these parts are called as modules. Each module, it will be worked out by a set of programmers, only a few programmers for one particular module. So let us say there are 10 modules in the project. Each set of programmers will work only on their module. So here the module is clearly tested by the programmers, and they will first write the code for that particular module, and then they will go for testing. So the code is written based on which one? Software design description. After checking the flowcharts and algorithms, they will write the program code, and after completing their module, they will test the module. So module testing means here checking for errors. So there are two kinds of errors. One is logical error, the other one is syntax error. So logical errors means anything that deals with any error that deals with the output which is not desirable, which is not desired output, and you get an output but you got a undesired output. Okay, so that is nothing but logical error. Next, other one is syntax error, where you don't write the program code properly. That is nothing but syntax error. A grammatical error, mistake in the code, that is nothing but syntax error. And logical error means wrong output. Okay, so these two things will be checked out by the programmers after writing the code. That is called as module testing. Only for their module they will work on. And next comes the integration part. So here in integration part, all the modules are clubbed together, nothing but combined together, and that is why the name integration, where you are adding up all the modules together, and that particular name is called as integration, summing up of all the parts. And after that, system testing will be done. System testing means all the modules are now combined together. Now it is performing like an individual system. Now whether the system will perform correctly or not, that is as per the desired requirement of the consumer, the client, whether it is performing like that or not, we will check. Okay, so system testing, that is. Sometimes the individual modules will be working fine, there will not be any errors in the modules, but there is a chance when you club them, when you combine them all together, sometimes they will not work properly. Okay, there may be a problem with linking up different modules. Okay, so for example, one module and module 1 and module 2 are working properly individually, but when you combine module 1 and module 2, there is a linking issue between module 1 and module 2. Okay, so the system will not work properly then. When the modules individually are working well, but when they are combined, they are not working well, then it is not desirable. So to overcome this, once again we will do system testing, that is the entire check. Once the entire check is done, we will check for errors in that, and if we find any errors in that, then immediately the project team, the developers will again rewrite the code, and once it is success, that is again they will do testing and they will check for errors. If there are no errors, then it is successful, then the project is said to be complete. Okay, so here by this fifth step itself, the product is complete, but still it is not delivered to the consumer, the client who wants the business application. He told the proposal to the company, but he only gave the idea, but he did not receive the product. So now after all this testing is happening, okay, after this testing is complete, then it will be going for the delivery. So here in this step, delivery is done in two ways. One is beta release and the other one is official release. So delivery is done. The software product is delivered in two stages. First one is beta release, the second one is official release. In the beta release, the product is delivered to a friendly set of consumers. It is not directly delivered to the original client. Why? Because if the original client receives the product and if he feels that the product is not up to the mark, then there will be an issue with the client. So that's why the company will make sure that the product is fine. So that's why they will send it to a friendly set of consumers who have an agreement with the company. Okay, so these friendly set of consumers, they will check the product and they will verify if there are any errors, any bugs in that project, and if there are no bugs, if there are no errors in that, and they will say that this project is fine. Immediately, then the next process will start, next stage will start. What is that? Official release. In the official release, the product is released to the original client. So this is how the delivery is done. In some cases, there will be some extra steps involved. These are the main, first 6 steps are the main ones. The last step is, in some cases it will be there. That is nothing but maintenance part. So there may be a maintenance issue. For example, in future, the product is delivered to the consumer, but he did not see any errors initially. But after 1 or 2 months, he may see some bug in the project. And then he has to approach the team, software development company, and he has to give his complaints there. And immediately there is a team called as maintenance team, which will correct those bugs. Okay. So here in the maintenance, there are 3 different types of maintenance. One is corrective maintenance. So here in the corrective maintenance, the errors are checked, the bugs are checked. So for example, the consumer says that there are some bugs in my project, okay, in my application, whatever you develop, there are some bugs in that. So immediately the software development company will note that and they will try to correct those errors. That is called as corrective maintenance. Next comes adaptive maintenance. So adaptive maintenance is nothing but, for example, here now the client wants to send his application to a new environment, new operating system. For example, the project was initially developed for Android operating system, but now he wants to send that product, same product, to another operating system like iOS or Windows. Now the software has to adapt to new environment, new operating system environment. So for that, adaptive maintenance is done. So then the maintenance team will take up the project and they will do some changes so that this project code will adapt to new environments. So that is called as adaptive maintenance. Next one, perfective maintenance. In perfective maintenance, the errors are checked. Errors, whether they are errors which are continuous in nature, okay, which continuously happen, we will try to rectify those errors and we will try to update our product. So here the update is needed. Okay, for example, in some companies, they will update every few months, they will update their product. So for updates, you require perfective maintenance. So for errors, corrective maintenance. For changing of environment, adaptive maintenance. For updating, you are going for perfective maintenance. So based on this, all these maintenance, different kinds of maintenance, we will conclude this waterfall model, that these are the steps involved in waterfall model. Next one, we will see a small video on this. Here in this video, we are dealing with agile as well as waterfall model. Here in this model, waterfall model, these are the features in the waterfall model. Just now I explained. We will see what is the difference between waterfall model and agile model, and why we will be using the second model, which is agile model. So agile model is very important. So here the first model just now I explained, which is nothing but waterfall model. In waterfall model, the environment is the steps are fixed, the requirements are fixed, and that's when you choose this model. Here there are 4 different steps in this. These are nothing but condensed steps. I have given 7 steps. These are nothing but condensed steps. Just now we have seen. So in this first one, here in the waterfall model, there are requirements like fixed budget, fixed scope, fixed time, and good quality. But this can be a problem for the client. Okay, because sometimes you want to make changes, then it cannot happen. In this waterfall model, changes are not clearly done. Okay, once it is fixed, it is fixed. That's it. You cannot change the project in the middle. Okay, so here in the waterfall model, there is no interaction between the client and the project team in between the project. Only initially they will interact. That's it. So once the project is developed, there won't be any interaction, and directly the product will be delivered to the consumer. Okay. Next, here this can lead to dissatisfaction of the project. So sometimes the consumer will be not happy with the final product. Okay. So here, now to overcome that, we can use agile manifesto, agile model. In agile model, we can change the product and we can update the product in each and every iteration. So here agile model is used to improve the product in cycles. So in waterfall model, it is only in a linear fashion, but here you can improve the product over each iteration. As iterations grow in time, from first iteration, a small minimum viable product is delivered, and they will take the feedback of the client. Based on that feedback, the product will be improved over each and every iteration. So with agile, the changes are welcome, but in waterfall, the changes are not there. It is fixed in nature. So after each iteration, the product will be improved. Okay, so the ideas of the consumer will be taken into consideration, and they will improve the product in the next step. Okay, so here this leads to greater customer satisfaction. So let us consider an example here. In this case, for example, we are delivering, I am taking an analogous example where you want to deliver a car. Okay, just like a software, I am trying to give a car. Okay, just analogy, you try to understand this. So here, car, first we will draw a layout map for the car. Then after that, chassis and other parts will be assembled together, and then you will get the final product. This is an example for waterfall model. Here everything is fixed. You are not having any changes here. But sometimes the final product will be good, or sometimes it will not be as desirable by the consumers. So if it is bad, it leads to greater dissatisfaction. Okay, so here the consumer can be dissatisfied if the product is not up to the mark. But in the agile model, it is not the case. Here in the first iteration itself, a working model is developed. Okay, a working model of the car is developed in agile in the first step itself. And after that, this is a minimum viable product. Okay, minimum features it has. Next, the consumer will say that this does not have any features that I said. So immediately the features will be included in the next iteration. Like that, after every iteration, the improved features will be seen in the product, and you can see the customer is satisfied after the iterations. Okay, so here it leads to greater customer satisfaction. Sometimes the customer can have the product within the third iteration itself, he can feel that this product is good. Okay, he does not want to go for fourth iteration. So here it can lead to customer satisfaction in the middle itself, but here at the final step only it is possible. Here it can happen in the middle also. In between 3 or 4 iterations you can have a very good product. So generally this agile model is done in iterations, cycles. Okay, so here when you come to the differences between agile and waterfall model, the level of flexibility is very important. Here the waterfall model is not flexible, whereas the agile model is very flexible. So waterfall model is rigid, fixed. It does not allow you to have any changes. Okay, but agile model is very good for changes. So now we will see what is agile model. In agile model, the changes are taken into consideration. For example, the customer wants to have changes in the product. Okay, so that can be done in agile model. So we will just once recollect what are the things that we have seen in the video. The first thing is the waterfall model has fixed requirements and it does not encourage changes. Okay, so these are the main things. It is suited only for these things. So they can be the limitations also, because sometimes you want the customer to have the customer wants some changes in the project. So then you should have those flexibility also. So the flexibility is not encouraged in this one. So next one, so when you look at the model itself, it happens like a waterfall. That is, from the first step to the last step, there is only one direction in how you go with the project. Okay, you cannot go back to the previous step because it increases the investment of the entire project. Okay, so here each and every step will flow in a particular order. So that's why it is the name is given as waterfall model. You cannot go back to the previous step. Okay, if you go back to the previous step, the entire investment of the project will increase. So the flexibility is a major problem in this. Okay, so to overcome this, we are going for agile model, and in agile model everything happens in iterations, nothing but cycles. Cycle of same steps is called as iteration. So here we have different steps. If you look at this carefully, the same steps are there that we have seen in waterfall model, except that there is multiple iterations. So here 5 steps are there. One is planning. Planning means it is almost like feasibility study. Here you will plan the entire project based on the ideas given by the client, and based on that you have a planning structure for that, and then you go for requirement specifications. In the requirement specification, SRS document is prepared for the first iteration. In the first cycle, they will see whether the project can be done with minimum viable things, that are minimum working model. Okay, minimum working model is given to the customer. So for that, what are the requirements that will be specified in the software requirement specification, and after that design will take place. In design, SDD is given. SDD means what? System Design Description. So here flowcharts and algorithms are given, and after that the coding takes place. Coding is nothing but building the code for that particular model. As why the name building means it happens in increments. Okay, so in the first iteration the basic build is there. In the second iteration the code has more features in that, so the build will be second build. Okay, second build has more features in it. So that's why the name building. Instead of coding, we are writing their building. Next one, testing. So testing, I told you there are different kinds of testing. So for logical errors as well as syntax errors, that will be checked here. And the product, a minimum viable product is delivered in the iteration 1, which has limited features. But the consumer then will check the product whether it is working properly or not, and he says that I want more features. Then the second iteration will start. In the second iteration, again the same steps will take place. Here more and more things will be considered, more and more features will be considered that are given by the client, and the second build has more features. It is a developed software now. Next, iteration 3, even more features. So as you can see, with every iteration the product is being improved. Okay, Next one, in the next step we come across the features of this. So we said that iteration includes all these steps and it also takes the feedback of the customer, but in the waterfall model it was not the case. Okay, so here in the waterfall model, this consideration of changes was not taken, but in this case agile model, changes are taken into consideration. Okay, so here the product, based on the requirements of the customer, the iterations will improve the product. Okay, so in the first iteration basic product will be there, in the second iteration a much more improved product will be there. Like that, after 3 or 4 iterations you will have a very good product which is desirable by the consumer. Whenever he says the product is good, immediately the project is complete. Okay, immediately it is delivered to the consumer, okay, with all the required features. So here waterfall model, it deals with fixed environment. Okay, everything is fixed cost, fixed time, that is time to complete the project. Okay, what is the investment on the project, and ideas. Okay, whatever the software that is there, everything it is fixed here. You cannot allow changes here, but in the case of agile it can be improved over iterations, improved with iterations. But however, the small thing that is mainly taken into consideration is cost. Okay, here the cost can be slightly higher because with every iteration the cost increases. Okay, but in this case it has to start from the first step, but here it is not the case. Okay, here you can always improve your product with iteration, but here it is not the case. Here you have to go back to the first step again. If the product is not good, again you have to start from the feasibility study. That is the major issue with the waterfall model. Okay, so now we will go back to that. So here in the agile model, so adaptability to changes is encouraged. The product is encouraged with changes. Okay, and it has improved customer collaboration. That means the customer can contact whenever the product is not good, immediately he can contact with the software development company and say his ideas. He can give his ideas to improve the product. Okay, so that can be done here, and early detection of issues also can be done. So continuous testing will be there in each and every iteration. There is testing, so you can have always the product will be improved over iterations. But in the case of waterfall model it was not the case. The testing was done only in the very last stage of the project. Okay, so after 4th and 5th step we are doing the testings there. Okay, so sometimes when the testing is done so later, 2 months or 3 months of the project time is over. Okay, so here waterfall model has that disadvantage. That disadvantage can be overcome by this model. So here you can see here different cycles are taken into consideration. Each and every iteration takes about 2 to 3 months. Okay, and with each iteration the same steps will be repeated and the product will be improved. So when you come across the pros and cons, the positive things about waterfall model is it is clear in structure, easy to develop, but the main drawback is it is not flexible and testing also takes place very late. Okay, but in the case of agile model it is very flexible and you can always communicate with the client for making changes and improving the product. So if you ask me a question, which model will be used for these two cases? For example, I am doing the space shuttle design. For that software, strict requirements are there. For as strict requirements are there, here waterfall model it can be used. Okay, here waterfall model is used. Whereas in this case, mobile app with evolving features, that means continuous improvement. For this case, you can go for agile model. Okay, so this is the main difference between that. Whenever there is a fixed requirement, go for waterfall model. When there is changes, then go for agile model. So waterfall model are suited for projects which are well defined, okay, where the requirements are fixed. Whereas agile model, it is widely used in software development where changes are encouraged. Okay, whenever the product is not good, the client can tell that he want to have certain changes in the project, you can do that, okay, in agile model. So examples of waterfall model are healthcare monitoring software, okay, where the requirements are fixed. But in agile model, where the applications are constantly evolving over the years with the updates, okay, there you can go for agile model. Okay, so I conclude with this, that agile model and waterfall model, you can choose it based on your requirement. Okay, for example, your requirements are fixed, then go for waterfall model. If your requirements are continuously changing, it is better to go with agile model. Thank you.